Hi everyone, it's Kasia from Tarot Map, and this is in another installment in Inspired Tarot Map series. And this time I'm hosting one of my favorite artists if it comes to tarot and oracle decks, and it's Cilla Conway. Hi Cilla.
Hi.
And Cilla is an author of Intuitive Tarot, Devas of Creation, Byzantine Tarot. Now you are working on Shimmering Veil Tarot and another set of Devas of Creation as well. So quite a collection. You are an intuitive artist. Your artwork is very, especially I think the newer decks are very kind of like Devas and the Shimmering Veil, you know, they very kind of
Yeah.
different style. Like I love it, and I'm glad to see this evolution. And you also, from what I saw on your website, a psychotherapist. You have an MA in psychotherapy and counseling, so that's really cool too. So the first question, Cilla, that I usually ask my guests is about ancestry. If you could share just where you're from, what's your lineage, where do you live now? If you want to share, you don't have to, but you could.
I'm a bit of a mongrel. I was born in Holland, of Dutch and English parentage, lived in Africa for 24 years. In Zimbabwe.
Wow.
Well, I went to art college in South Africa. And then I left. I came over to London, stayed there for something like 45 years. Too long. And then my brother and my best friend were talking about traveling around in their respective campus. And I thought, do I really need to be in London anymore? I don't really. Where would I want to go? And I had this vision of a house on a hill with the most beautiful views. And I thought, yeah, I'll go for that. And I came to Italy and all the houses were really rubbish. Horrible. I fell in love with a French house. But on my way down to the French house, I saw the Sierra Nevada mountains. I thought there were clouds at the beginning, and I thought, wow, those are weird clouds. And then I thought, that's the mountains. I have to see the mountains. And the French house, you couldn't see the mountains. So I came back to Italy and looked and looked and looked. And when I was kind of losing faith, I rang my original estate agent here and I said, you got anything new? And they said, well, there is something new that's coming on just now. We're looking at it this morning. So I said, send me some pics. And they sent me these photographs and I said, I'm coming out on Monday. And I saw it on Monday and I made an offer for it on Tuesday and it was mine on Friday.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's in Italy.
Yeah.
And
yeah, northwest Italy though.
Sorry, overlooking the mountains, yeah?
Yes, 2 mountains just there. Except that at the moment you can't see anything because it's raining.
Yeah, amazing. Wow. I love those stories when you kind of like if you meant to be there, you'll be there because you kind of nearly gave up hope and just by, throw of the fate, a throw of a dice. I just called him this last time. It's like our meeting.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, okay. Thanks for sharing. So, you as an artist, I was wondering, because when I looked at your, like you did the psychotherapy and all of the other stuff, like, but have you've been an artist forever since you can remember, or did it just hit you at some point and you like discovered your new talent? So how did it go with you as an artist?
I wanted to be an artist at the age of 4. I never stopped, but I wasn't very good. I've never won any competitions. And my parents were really into, if she's good, then she'll have won competitions and stuff. So my father even dissuaded, he actually stopped me from taking art at school, which I never forgave him for. And then I managed to get some sort of a qualification at a technical college down in South Africa, which was okay, but it didn't enable me to do art as a work, So when I came over here, I always was looking for a course, a part-time degree course. And I found one in 1999 and I did a degree. So yeah, I've always been an artist, but I've never been particularly good. It's just I think that I'm so old now, it's bound to get better.
Well, that's interesting, you know, because this is a very kind of, I think, when you have to talk about your own art, it's always a bit harder. And plus art, I think it's so personal. You can never really put so much value. You know, some people with degrees and stuff like, you know, I might not be drawn to that, which doesn't mean that they're bad or whatever. It just doesn't move me.
Very, very
know
personal.
That your art moves me, and yeah, I just don't really even. I don't think I agree with this, you know, that you have to have an art degree or anything to be an artist. Like, I consider myself being an artist just because I look at life like an artist, you know, like I look symbolically. I search for this kind of magic in the image. I love cards because of that as well. It's like feeling, you know, having the art galleries in your hands constantly. So yeah, I think, you know, it's so personal that it really doesn't really matter. But when you started creating the decks per se, like how did it start that you kind of came to the point of like, oh, I'm going to put my images, you know, into the format of a deck? Like, how did you come to this conclusion that this is the way you're going to go? Which is brilliant because we can afford your decks and we can afford your art, you know. It's different with originals and stuff like this.
It was very weird, again, quite weird, because I had sort of seen the tarot. But when I went looking for a deck, I hated all of them. So I thought, okay, I'll just paint my own, you know, but I painted an extremely bad one to begin with, which was based on medieval tapestries mostly. I sold that to Stuart Kaplan. I think he gave it to his other artists and they sort of took bits out of it. But anyway, one evening, my ex-husband and I would watch television at night, and I was watching television and doodling, and I looked down and there was this fool on my paper he'd drawn himself, and I was like, oh, you are something, because he was absolutely insane. You know, he was just off with the fairies. And yet he was calling me. He was like, come on, you know, join me. So I painted him up and he worked. He was really great. And he also came with this sort of oval shape.
We're going to stop now. Yeah, we pause. I'm sorry, guys, we had to stop for a little while, but we're back. So Cilla, if you can continue the full story. So he painted himself and then you put it into color, and then what happened?
The next day I just decided that I would paint the magician, and he also worked fantastically. So I thought, okay, you know, my mother had this thing that I never finished anything. I thought, all right, I'll finish the majors. Don't know how long it'll take me, but I'll do them. And I went through them. Some of them were really difficult. Like, I struggled with the devil. Oh my God, I struggled with the devil. I struggled with the world, and I struggled with the Empress. The rest of them were fairly easy. But I think that if you look at it, they were the sort of archetypes that I was struggling with most.
Huh. But the world card, by the way, I'm sorry to bump in, but I love that world card.
Me too.
I have my more favorite in the majors, but the world card is so amazing. Wow.
Yeah, I love it. And I really struggled to match something that good in the Shimmering Veil. I'm not too sure that I have even. But again, I did about 4 versions of that. And so there we are. I had these majors and I stuck them on the wall as a picture. And people came along and said, you really ought to finish the rest of the cards. And I was like, you must be joking. There are 56 more cards. And then one day I just thought, okay. So I would work tiny little thumbnails. At that stage, we didn't have computer thumbnails, but I would work a tiny little thumbnail and think, that design works. And I would paint it up. And they were really easy. They were a lot easier than the majors. So I think I did have a big break in the middle. I had something like 4 or 5 years break in the middle, but the whole deck was finished by 1981. and I started using it. And the amazing thing was that it was so easy. Reading with it was just a doddle. So I thought, I should really try and get it published, but that was very difficult. I took them to Stuart Kaplan in America, and he said, no, he wanted fig leaves on all the men, and I was like, what? And he wanted something like 0.5% royalties, and I said, I'm not very clued in on this, but it sounds pretty awful. And so in the end, I just said, no, I'm not doing it, and just left it. I left it. I carried it. I would print them out. I printed quite a few out and started selling those, but they're hard work because you've got 78 cards and each one is going to cut out. And then 33 years later, I met a chief of a Druid order and showed him the cards, and he really liked them. And he said, look, I'll give you a draft proposal for a publisher I know. And I emailed him, and he sent it to me. So I worked this thing up, and I sent it in on January, 29th, 2003. And they rang me up the next day. And I didn't know enough to know that this was incredibly unusual. And they said, can you bring in the originals? We want to see if the colors will reproduce. So we had this lovely meeting, unbelievably gorgeous meeting where, I'd been used to corporate meetings where there were sort of people like this the whole time. And I just thought, wow, this is Christmas, So I was going to be a published author. So I thought, if I'm going to be a published author, I actually should start reading properly, like professionally. And I did a few readings, and I did a reading for this woman who was a fortune teller. And she said, I don't know what it is that you're doing, but it's not tarot. So I thought, what is it then? And then I met a whole lot of tarot people, and they said, of course you're bloody reading tarot. You're using tarot cards, aren't you? I mean, I can't do the fortune telling side of it. I just can't. Mine have always been much more psychological because that's where I'm at, But I was lucky enough to get a job reading every now and again, every week or so, at Watkins Bookshop in London, which is really world famous.
Yeah, I just went there.
I really love it there.
Yeah, I just went there.
I read there for 14 years.
Wow.
Sorry?
I just went there for the first time this year. I went to visit London like a few months ago, and I specifically went to Watkins Books to see what it is, where it is. So yeah, cool.
Do you remember what day you went?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it either was, I can't remember now, but I have to check because I was there from like Wednesday to Monday. So I either was there maybe on Friday or Saturday, something like this.
Because I have different readers every day.
Yeah.
I used to read on Tuesdays.
Okay.
So I could tell you who. I think you might have had an Indian reader.
I mean, I didn't get a reading. I just went to the.
Oh, you didn't?
No. I just went to the bookshop. Yeah. But there was definitely somebody reading because I saw, they have like this little kind of stage behind the veil, the curtains. So yeah, I think there was some Indian guy, like with the Indian name,
That would have been Swami. He does fortune telling. He doesn't do tarot reading so much.
Yeah, I'm not too interested in fortune telling either. So
you will meet a tall, dark, handsome stranger on Saturday. Really?
And I know.
Yeah. So what?
I know, like some people love it and it's awesome, but I also I'm just totally like, why would I want to know? Like, and what does it change in my life, and what can I do about it right now? It's just give me some creative juice here so that I can do something, not just like sit and wait for a dark stranger. Not that I mind.
I've actually sent people, well, not sent people away, but there were a couple of young Chinese women who wanted to know when they were going to get married. And I said, you've come to the wrong person. Just I don't do that.
Yeah, because in some cultures it's very popular, like Indian culture, or even when I went
Yeah.
to Thailand, we were doing this kind of, you know, Western questions asking. We went to my husband, I sent my husband to check like the Thai reader, you know, and she used like Thai astrology and tarot cards. And she was the same. She's like, Western people always ask different questions. She said, like, Thai people always want to know dates, what's going to happen with business, like very predictive type of readings. And I think we like, yeah, some people from like from the West, most people want to know a bit more like, you know, what can I do about it and all of this stuff, which is not so prediction based. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
So okay, you in Watkins, you get the deal for the Intuitive Tarot, and it's published, and it's a success, I think, right? Because we love Intuitive Tarot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what made you then jump to Devas of Creation? Because I have Intuitive Tarot of yours as well, but I couldn't find it in my million of decks, so I just didn't pull it. But then Devas of Creation, when they came up, I remember even writing you a long time ago, you know, and just buying it off you, like privately from you. I don't know if you sell it in any shops right now or how that works. You can tell us in a sec. But this deck, I was just going like, because I saw a few videos on YouTube. You done like a in a pub even. I was just going, this is crazy lady. I love this lady, because I remember you like walking, and I'm like, she's just doing it in the pub. This is awesome. And showing this deck, it's like, you know, the unmanifest transcendence. This is structure of the deck. I think like, fuck, she started with, I'm sorry, she started with like nothing, you know, like, and then she just captures in this deck like the whole universe, and then she explains it in the pub. I'm like, this is amazing. And I was fascinated like how you can tell me about this Devas of Creation, because this is really one of my favorite oracle decks and I use it a lot. And I was just always fascinated, how did you get to, you know, this idea for the structure of the deck, to like throw in the entire universe into it with atoms and devas, and why devas? Did you have some visions? Tell us about this, please.
Okay. Devas, I'd come across by going to, well, no, a friend of mine had gone to Findhorn Foundation in Scotland, because they were working with spirits of flowers, and they called them devas, spirits of cabbages and stuff like that. So I knew about them, and I'd gone to Findhorn myself, hoping to connect with these devas. This is a funny story, actually. I think I've got it in the book, but when I came, they'd already started teaching people instead of cabbages, so I didn't really learn very much about these devas. When I came home, I just moved into my new house, and there was this tree fuchsia that someone had left. It was really a sad little thing, you know, so one stalk. And I said to the devas, please, will you look after my tree fuchsia? Came out the next morning, it was in 2 bits on the floor. And I was like, I don't think I like devas. I don't think I like these beings. You know, really, that is just not acceptable. So I didn't talk to them for a long time.
That's hilarious.
But then I went to a talk on angels. Now, you know, of course, angels have been around forever. Well, angel cards have been around for quite a long time, let's say, at least 20, 30 years. And I hated them. I thought that they were disgusting. They were sweet, they were insipid, and they were disgusting. So I went to a talk on angels. And at the end of it, the guy who had given it, had turned his whole life around. He'd gone to have do workshops with Doreen, and come back and turned his whole life around. He had been working in London Transport, and he just stopped. He gave in his notice, and he decided to be an angel therapist. And he bought a houseboat on the Thames. Now, those things are usually like mega thousands. Somehow he managed to get one that he could afford. And when I met him, he was at this talk, he was really sweet. He was direct. He was down to earth, and he was lovely. So I said, you know, I really liked your talk. but I hate the cards you use. Someone should paint a deck of angels as I think they probably are, that if you encountered them, you'd be shaking for a week because the energies are must be so awesome. So he said, and I said, well, maybe I should paint the deck, you know. He said, go for it. So I woke up the next morning and I thought, okay. Got out this card. I was using A4 cardboard because I wanted to scan these things in one hit. And I had a piece of yellow cardboard that I painted sort of yellow swirls on. And I thought, this will do. So I painted and it turned into the sun. And I thought, I don't think this is an angel somehow. It's got to be a deva. And if it's a deva, then you're not talking about sweet little devas or plants. You're talking about cosmic things. So, okay, so there was the sun. And then I think, God, I can't remember what I painted next. But whatever they were, they sort of flowed. And then I started painting these incredibly light beings. You've seen the deck, you know, there's grace and there's eros and there's abundance and you know, yeah, ecstasy, yeah.
I love this one.
And I decided that there had to be 10 of them to sort of reference the Kabbalah. Yeah, grace. I don't like the Kabbalah because it's too male oriented. I think I said this the other day. It's all he. Ketha is a he. Then you get Bina, who is, you know, on a lower level, she. Okay, so the feminine is above the masculine, no question. But I also love the idea in the Kabbalah of this nothingness. They've got this concept called Ein, I think it is, or Ein Sof, however you say it.
Yeah.
So I had the black card to begin the deck, the nothingness. And then I had just something shifts. What's that? Number 1. God, what have I called it? Don't remember.
Number 1 is called First Light.
That's it, First Light.
The 0.
And so that's when something shifts in the universe. And then the next one is the Big Bang, or God, or whatever. And by that stage, I knew that what I was doing was a kind of my story of creation. It might not be anybody else's story of creation, but it's mine. And that's it, yeah. That's the 0 card. The black card is the 0 card. So there are 71 cards in that, 72 cards in that deck, but because the 0 card is a 0, you have 72. What? Okay. I carried on painting. I thought, you know, you could now have qualities. You could have metamorphosis. You could have the one that you love, humanity. That would be lower down when the energies start slowing so that you get reality coming in, you get manifestation coming in. And it actually didn't take that long. That's it, yeah, exactly. You get the seasons and you get the planets. I wanted planets in there, which meant that the deck had to be 72 cards, not 64. It had to be multiples of 8, because for some reason I still am very hooked into the idea of sound creating the universe. So actually that's incorrect. I've just thought it's only our Western scale that's 8 notes. I think the Chinese have something like 5. But anyway, I wanted 8.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. I'm an 8 as a, you know, the numerology number, but I never really connected it to the sound. But I recently received this beautiful sound bowls, and I also like have this totally like intuitive sense that what you're saying with the creation, like, and what comes also from, you know, the sound Om and all of this Indian esoteric knowledge as well. Like, it's amazing.
Mm.
That's interesting. Yeah. Okay. So when you made the devas, you have all this structure, which is awesome about the deck. Also, that you included the shadow side. That is not all just, as you didn't like the angel cuts, all just pretty sweet and nice washed. And then now you're making this devas too. I don't know if you can show us a few cards or if you have the deck around. And how is it?
I've just dropped the deck. No, I haven't dropped the deck.
How is it going to be different from Devas 1? Like, do you have a similar structure to it, or like, is it totally like going in another direction, or you're just creating for now and you don't know what the structure will be? Like, how is it? Because
The structure is very different. You do have some shadow cards in it, but as I painted it, I started off. Someone asked me if I could put one of the cards in it that I hadn't been able to get into the Devas. It's called something like the universe, only it isn't, and I can't find it, needless to say. And I thought, okay, painting another deck would be probably quite interesting, actually. I just finished the Crystal Lattice, which is now the Shimmering Veil.
yeah.
I keep on calling it that. It's terrible. Yeah. And I thought, good idea, but it's got to be different. What do the Devas, want me to do? So I sort of footled around for a while, and then I painted this card, which was an angel bat. And when I scanned it in, it got very dark. And I thought, why is it so dark? And I decided it was, this is going to take forever. I decided it was twilight, going down into the night. And twilight is a brilliant way of looking at David 2 deck, because it's about the in-between spaces. And I probably won't be able to find a damn thing.
That's okay, maybe.
Yeah, if I find, oh, here we are, at last. Now, the question is, can I get it into
I
the
can
screen?
speaker view. Maybe a little bit further away from the screen, just tiny little bit. Yeah, it's not very sharp, but yeah, we can see a little bit, yeah.
I can always send you the images. And I thought this was a good way of starting, the in-between spaces, why not? And I did a bit more, but it wasn't really falling into place. But then I decided that one of the best things I could do was to look at the dimensions, the different dimensions, because I painted a big picture earlier this year called the Dimension Shift. I can't show it to you because it's enormous. And I thought, yeah, why not the dimensions? And I was still working on the idea from the Shimmering Veil that there were 8 dimensions. So I started painting these dimensions. God, it was like wading through glue. They were all a bit icky and they didn't work and I didn't like them. So then, fortunately, I went to the UK in October, hoping to get a sort of different view of things. And the guy who you wouldn't have seen in Watkins, he's below decks, if you like, but he's seen every single one of my decks. And he said, yeah, they're really lovely. I love them a lot, but I don't think you'll sell many because they're so abstract. But why 8 dimensions? So I thought, well, because this guy, I'd seen a video on YouTube about this guy talking about a beautiful lattice, which is actually on the back of Crystal Lattice Shimmering Veil. He designed this scientist had designed this lattice. But when I got home, I thought, I don't need 8 dimensions. I'm going to expand it. So I expanded it to dimension 1, which is just a teeny weeny little blue dot. Oh, look, I found it.
Okay.
That's it. But if you look at it closely, it's the Earth. And that is another really interesting aspect, because you've got something that looks like a dot but isn't. It's actually a world, and maybe all little dots are like that. I know the whole idea about 11 dimensions is that there are all these dimensions coiled up at the bottom of brains, which are, like sheets of something or other. My science is not great, I just
That's
I
okay.
just pick up on what I like.
But I also thought, like, of this, like when you have images, what is it called? When you see everything in an image and it repeats itself, holographic images, like that in this
Yes,
one shot,
yes.
you can have all these dimensions hidden.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This deck, the Deva 2 deck, is going to have a holographic foil on the sides, which will be shimmery. Well, the shimmering veil is going to have a shimmering side as well, but these ones, I want to make them quite special, and they are. So
a kind of twilight and different dimensions, and the devas, they just like when you paint, because I know how it is to be in the creative process, you kind of think but you not think, like you are in the twilight yourself, kind of. So do you have any, like, do you preconception of what you're going to paint, or you just kind of, do you have vision before, or do you just start painting and it comes out itself, or is it different every time?
Normally I don't have a concept in my brain, because if I do, it won't work. So often I just put paint down, and then I'll look at it and I think, hey, it's got something in there. I'll see if I can bring it out. But then when you get to something like The Last Fish, which is also in that deck, I knew I wanted The Last Fish, because by that stage I'd moved on to ecological things, and I got really quite depressed about the whole situation, because you start looking into it, it's so depressing. So, okay, last fish, last tree, last human, last something else. God knows. Can't remember.
Ocean,
no, I haven't put the ocean in it, because I've got the fish. But I had a fish from the Devas, which was a lovely image, pink and blue image. So I decided I'd make it into a dead fish. So that I did have a concept of, and the last tree I'd already painted. So I just used that. Last human, I don't think it works at the moment. It needs clarifying. But fortunately, by that stage, when I was getting really quite depressed, I came across a whole series of films called The Time of the Sixth Sun, which was on earlier this year. And then they've just reissued them again. And I realized that there were millions of people who think like I do, who want the best for the earth. The people who are prepared to destroy it to make a couple of bucks, they're not, I don't think, the future. I think they're dead.
Maybe they were the last humans from your deck. This type of people.
Oh yeah, I did do a picture that I called blowing up one of those people,
a bit of magic. Wow. Okay.
Definitely.
I think I want to move on a little bit, just because like I want to keep them around an hour, the interviews. And so the last question about the Devas, like, when do you think is it going to be ready? If you have any idea yet, or?
I would like it to be out in June next year.
Okay, so it's still a little bit of time to finish and to like wrap it
because
all
I'm
up.
still thinking, does that one work? Maybe not. How can I,
Yeah, so in general I was thinking that you're such a busy bee, because you were kind of, I mean, you had the Shimmering Veil Tarot, like you had artwork from before as well, but you also were like kind of working on it to make it, like probably how you want to see it now. But let's speak about this Shimmering Veil, and maybe you can also show us a few cards, because I know that this one is going to be available sooner than probably Devas 2, right?
I'm hoping January.
Yeah, we hope so. So I actually love the Shimmering Veil name. I think this is, I don't know, it's poetic, it's kind of like mysterious, draws you in, Crystal Lattice was nice, but I think the Shimmering Veil, it's like, it shimmers, which is cool. So
yes, exactly. Yeah.
So you had an art, like this artwork a little bit, maybe, I don't know if all of it or all of the artwork or some of the artwork from before. So when did you actually start kind of having the idea about deck like this? Was it a long time ago?
Again, a weird sort of set of synchronicities. I go very much by synchronicities. A couple of friends of mine had come out from England, and they realized that they were quite near me, so they came to see me. And I'd been talking about this 8-dimensional thing and showing the guy the lattice. And I had this big painting that I'd already actually begun in England of, she was definitely the high priestess. She's got a veil, a dark veil, and you can see the glint of her eyes through the veil.
Do you have some cards? Show us some.
Well, I have something somewhere, but I have a feeling I just dropped the damn thing. No, this is it. But it's not in order. This is trouble. I use these cards, and so I never know where anything is.
Okay, maybe just show us a few, but you can still be talking about them.
This is the magician. Can you see him?
Okay. That's magician. Yeah, I can see. Yeah.
Let's see. Unfortunately, they are well shuffled. Oh, shall I show you death? Why not death? Death.
Cool.
It was very dark at the beginning, and then a friend of mine said it's too dark, much too dark for death. You know, you want it to be transformational. So
Scorpio says Scorpio was too dark for death for those people. I don't know.
Well, you know, the best thing about doing work nowadays is that you can shove all these cards through Photoshop, and I use Photoshop a lot. Oh, I've just seen her.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Great. She doesn't want to stay secret. Oh, amazing. So what is she she's holding, like this kind of shimmer?
Well, that's it, you see. She had her hands like this, and I was saying to my friend, well, she needs to hold something, but I don't want it to be a baby or something. I don't want it to be a world. He said, well, why don't you put a crystal lattice in there?
Perfect.
So it's a very schematic 8-dimensional crystal lattice, but that is what she's holding, the crystal lattice, which is why the title, and that's why I changed it later, because she's about the only one with a crystal. And I know people will be like, I bought the crystal lattice and it hasn't got any crystals in it. Why not? You know.
So now at least you have some shimmering veil. That's not bad.
Exactly.
You're covered. So show us a few more cards.
Okay.
So they like coming. Just tell me more about the images. So they were already before? You just started?
No. The high priestess was. The devil was something I painted when I was 18, and it scared me so much that I actually threw it in the attic and I didn't look at it. These are old. I don't want to see those. Okay, what have we got here? Oh, this one I really like, but I don't know how easy it is to see.
Well, it's like a bird, like a black bird flying, or a figure, or a tornado.
It's an angel,
the form
black angel.
Tornado in the form of the flying bird, black person.
Yeah,
what's underneath, like a sea?
Underneath is a sort of subterranean world, which is probably ours. And in the corner, this corner, and you won't be able to see it.
Yeah, there's like
a woman holding a disc.
Okay.
You know.
So what's
this deck? It's a 4 of Earth, but I've used the symbols, the Earth symbols, the what do you call them?
Elements? What?
Elementals.
Yeah.
I've used elementals. None of them have got cups, swords, anything. She's the only one, as far as I remember, that's got anything like the old symbol. It works.
Yeah, I love the decks which use elements, because that's what suits are anyway. But it's fascinating that this deck so reminds the style of the devas in general, and it's like a combo of like, I love this because, you know, I love tarot, so anything that you put into tarot system, I'm up for it. I actually love that kind of, because you managed to capture this amazing thing that is like an abstract, but it's still not abstract, like you still can distinguish, you know, what's happening in the card, but it's in this really flowy way that it that opens the intuition a lot, at least for me. Like, it works brilliantly. So I'm really excited about this shimmering veil like this, because I love the devas, but it's an oracle deck, and here we have tarot, which is such a similar style, which is awesome.
Well, you remember I said about the guy who I go to see in Watkins,
Yeah.
and he looked through an early stage of the shimmering veil, which was still a crystal lattice, and he said, you've got two different styles here. You've got one which is shimmering, and I really like that, and you've got one that's much more definite. I'm not that keen. And I looked at it and I thought, he's so right, you know. So I had to repaint a lot of them to make them more shimmery.
Yeah.
And some of them are still a little bit too definite, you know.
Yeah, but that's, I think, as soon as it's kind of congruent in, like, you know, it doesn't have to be always the same, but I think it's good when they have the coherence that, you know, like there is some theme and it holds the system, like the tarot system holds it together, but also artistically there is something that, you know, this is from this deck and not from, I don't know, intuitive tarot or something else, you know. So that's really awesome like that. But that's good to have friends who can, you know, pinpoint some stuff in early stages, because sometimes we don't see, especially when you know, you do it or you had this artwork for so long. And yeah, that's awesome. So when do you think Shimmering Veil is going to be available?
I think it's been held up because, first of all, the printers found that somehow the program I use for all my sort of pulling the stuff together is putting tiny little black lines on the artwork. So I didn't see it. They don't show all the time, which is really frustrating. But their designer was spending weeks taking these black lines out. And then I changed it, changed the design. And he was like, oh, no, please can you send me the artwork and the fonts and this all separately. So he's going to put it together. My God, it's going to be some, I'm going to have to really check it. But
Wow.
I feel very sorry for him. You know what? A huge amount of work. And we're now end of November. We're pushing it. But they have their new year in about, I think, the beginning of February. So they'll be aiming to get it out before that, I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so it will arrive here.
The Shimmering Veil
It should arrive
wants to appear in
Sorry.
2020. That the Shimmering Veil just wants to appear in 2020. Maybe, you know,
Yes.
this as an entrance into the new era.
Yes.
So okay, so if I could maybe ask for another, maybe 2 cards, just if you could show us some more.
Yeah.
What does Shimmering Veil want to show us publicly here?
You guys, what do you want to show them? Oh, this is another one that's going to be quite difficult to see, but it's another Earth card. Okay. It's a 2 of Earth.
I could see like there's something happening, some creation.
Yeah, what it is it's a strange elfin type figure holding atoms.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% certain I believe in atoms anymore, but she's holding them and she's about the right scale for them.
Yeah.
And she's green, you know, all green. So she's quite weird, but I like her. I'm putting aside the ones now that I remember I've got to send to you. I'm going to send you the whole deck, aren't I? I'm going to talk about that. Okay, have another one. I've got 2.
Go on, Shimmering Veil. You want to share itself. I can feel it.
Okay, 6 of water.
Okay, like a dancing couple, beautiful earth, and the standing figure in the left. Oh, that's what I love also, that you all like start looking at this and then you see this and then like this is, I love that. Yeah,
the person in the corner.
If you hold it in front of your face like this, a little bit higher up. Oh, like this, yeah.
Okay, so you've got this little old person there, and 2 little kids running up the hill with balloons and things. So it's about childhood, it's about having a wonderful time, and then it's about the older generation saying, I remember that.
Yeah, that's the memory from 6 of Cups, right?
And another water card. This is the I hope you can see it because I can't see anything
A
now.
bit to the sides, like in front of your face. Yeah, in front of your face. Bit. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's like three people dancing. Three of cups.
3 of Cups.
Yeah. Yeah, and they look like big ant, like in the wings, or
It's a flower.
it's a flower. Yeah, you couldn't see
Yeah.
it from the
Yeah. So they're sort of the stamens and things of the flower. So it's about friendship. It's about how friendship can go wrong, because sometimes it does.
Yeah.
And it took ages to get right. Oh God, I struggled with that.
Did you? You see, but now it wanted to show itself, so I think probably it's ready. It just goes,
Hope
Cilla,
so.
don't bloody change me anymore. I'm fine, thank you. I'm happy with
Yeah, I can't
myself.
change a card anymore.
Yeah. So the last question I wanted to ask you, actually, technical question. When Shimmering Veil Tarot will, be published, is it going to be available through you, or are you going to put it out somewhere, or how does it going to work?
No, I don't like Amazon,
Yeah.
so I've never used them. The other thing is when I get an order, they always come through me, okay? They are, Watkins do hold my decks. They're the only place I let hold them.
Yeah.
Although I might extend that a little bit. But when I get an order, I email the person and I say, thanks for the order. And these are the talks on this, and this is this, and you may like to check it out. So then I have their names and I make a connection with them. And I like that. The Amazon don't, you can't do it. So no, it doesn't work with Amazon.
Wondering what about Wasima's shop or a Little Red Tarot, which is in the UK, from Beth. I don't know if you know her. I can put you
Beth?
both in touch. Beth from Little Red Tarot. She seems really amazing, and she's got this very small outlet for selling independent tarot decks. She carries a lot of independent artists. I put you in touch because
Please.
it's really cool, and she's in London. I mean, in England. She's not, maybe in Scotland. In the UK somewhere. So I'm going to put you in touch with her, because I think it's always easy, because sometimes people from abroad can easier order it when it's from the shop, and they don't. People these days don't want to wait. But I totally agree with your approach as well, because it's much more personable. But very often these days, I think people are impatient. They just want to click buy, get the deck. So I think, like, if you trust a seller like Wasima or Bev,
Yeah.
if you like her, you have to
I'll
check.
definitely give Wasima, definitely give Wasima some decks.
Yeah.
But did I tell you about her? But while I was still, that's right. I remember I told you about the dimension shift
Yes.
that I painted.
Yeah.
While I was painting it, the woman who sends my decks out in England, she was getting a bit concerned because they were taking up a whole spare room, and she was saying, how do we monetize this? You'd have to pay me this much per month, and then I'd have to have a certain amount per deck. And I thought, oh my God, this is going to be very difficult. But at the same time, I was painting the big dimension shift. And then she suddenly said, no, you know what? You've given me so much. You've been so kind to me. I'm not going to charge you for any of this. Every now and again, just send me a whole stack of money that can cover postage and sending them out and petrol and that. But yeah, and I thought that's what a dimension shift looks like. When somebody goes against our ultra money system and says, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do what I believe is true. And I just thought, whoa, that is something else.
Yeah, that's cool. Good story. So the last question that I want you to ask you is, do you use cards for yourself? Do you use your decks, or for now you're just the artist and you paint them and just like, like babies go in the world?
No, I do use them. I don't do readings for myself. Every now and again, I will take a card if I don't know what the hell is going on. But I'll give you one very sweet example. A couple of years ago, my next door neighbor is American. and she'd just written a book about what she said were archetypes. And you know, the highest archetype is a genius, and the lowest archetype is God knows what, and terribly spiritual. And I went home, and at about 12:30, 1:30 at night, I thought, there's something wrong here. I don't know what, but something is wrong in my head. So I went downstairs and I asked the Daves, what the hell is going on? And I got the card of splitting. And I thought, yeah, that's absolutely right. I am split. What am I split about? And I realized that I was split between wanting to be this spiritual person and me, wanting to be authentic, to swear when I want, to be horrible when I want. I'm usually horrible to myself, having said that, not to many other people. But that split was dead on. And I thought, my God, yes. I wouldn't have realized that at all without those cards. So yes, I do use the cards.
Yeah, it's a beautiful reflection like this, because they sometimes really show you through image or the word sometimes. That's why I love working with cards like this as well, in like more self-reflecting way or creative way, or you know, to like understand something. And sometimes you don't get the messages straight away, like in this case. Sometimes you have to sit with them, and you know, it comes 3 days later or 2 years later, depending how strong the message was. But yeah, so that's awesome. Do you use any other tarot decks at all? Do you have any favorites, or are you just basically sticking to the ones you created? Do you buy any, or?
I do have one. No, I do have one, and I can't remember the name of it. It's a very strange deck and a very strange name. It's a personal's name, and I wish I could remember it, but
yeah, but
it's not one of the ones.
Yeah, but you're not like collecting decks, or it's not on in your, no. Okay. Well, Cilla, I think we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much. I'm so glad we managed to actually chat today. Just to let you guys into our joke, like we had a little bit of technological troubles before we actually connected. So I'm glad that I managed to get Cilla on, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you don't know Cilla's decks, I'm going to link your website, Cilla, and maybe reviews that I did of your decks below, or so I find some. Maybe, I don't know if I did intuitive tarot or not, but I definitely did Devas. So I'm going to link them below, and whenever the Shimmering Veil Tarot is ready, we're going to definitely inform you. So, you know, you just keep your eyes open, and Cilla's Instagram, my Instagram on Tarot Map, and definitely you will hear about it when it's ready to go. And I think you guys will be also, you know, whoever loves this artwork, I know it's not for everybody, but whoever loves it is probably really excited about it, like I am definitely. So let's just fingers crossed, Cilla, that it's coming out, you know, earlier rather than sooner. I mean, earlier rather than later. And thanks for joining me. Thank you for your wonderful sense of humor and your grounded, you know, nature. I love it, and I will speak to you soon. And maybe, you know, who knows, maybe when the deck comes out, we can catch up again and like go a little bit deeper into some of the archetypes. I'm sure there will be some cards when people will be going, I don't understand why she used it, which, by the way, leads me, before we sign off, is it going to be a companion book to the deck, or are you writing it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah. No, it's got a 100-page deck,
awesome.
book that talks about every single card.
Cool. All right. But that's always good, because sometimes these days people don't write books. But yeah, your books are always great. I love the Devas of Creation book as well. I use it all the time. And it really makes it easier to access the cards sometimes, and sometimes just opens up what needs to flow in, because sometimes you're kind of stuck in your own vision. So when when I read about it, I just go, okay, I can see it from this perspective as well. So that's cool. All right, we never stop talking. This was a goodbye. Bye, Cilla. Speak to you soon.
Ciao. Thanks a lot.
Everyone for watching.
Okay.
Bye.